morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Bowles, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes, indeedy.
Oh, my goodness. We got a great day planned. Hope your Monday's off and rolling. Hope you got a good one going. Hope everybody showed up to work, decided to work today, and got in from the weekend. I know sometimes it can be a manic Monday, but hey, hope everybody's off to a good start. Hope you had a great weekend. Our weather's kind of cloudy around here today, talking about some light rain during the day, but nothing too heavy. Hopefully, not enough to knock us out of business for the day. You know, no production, no profit. So that's what we're looking at weather-wise here. But hey, we actually could use some rain. We've done a whole lot of work seeding-wise and aeration-wise and landscape-wise. And you know, the beat goes on. It's a love-hate relationship between landscapers with rain and not having rain. But we've had our fair share of dry weather, so we're not going to complain. We're not going to complain. But hey, here we are. It's Monday, October 6th. Who believe it already? We haven't even had a fall really. It got cool for a few days, but you know, here it is. I mean, October 6th, and we've really not had any cool weather. So I don't know about you guys and what's going on in your all's markets, but I know Brett with BAM Weather has told us that things are going to change, going to get a little cooler. I think as we creep in toward the end of the week here in our region of the country, I mean, we'll get Brett on here Wednesday, Brett or Matt. Hopefully one of those guys will be able to hop on with us and find out what it's looking like. But looking like it's going to get pretty cool, at least in the morning. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. You know, if you had one chance, one opportunity, would you take it? Are you going to let it slip away? And I don't think any of us are going to let anything slip away, no doubt about it. But hey, hope you're out there hammering it out today, regardless of what you're doing. We're in the mow and blow show today at WLS predominantly. That's what we're doing, trying to get as much mowing as we can done. And we'll go from there. After tonight and tomorrow, they're talking maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain for us. So that'll be some solid rainfall. Be some solid rainfall. Be good. Glad to see it. And we'll be back at it Wednesday. Sounds like rain's going to move out, you know, Tuesday and late. So should be good back Wednesday, hammering it out again. So that's what our plan is here. Hopefully you guys got good weather plan. Like to know how your weekend went. We had a great weekend. We actually had Daniel's bachelor party. Big shout out to Tabitha for making some nice desserts for us. Some homemade stuff for us for desserts. And then I can honestly say it was for a bachelor party, it was completely different than anything I'd ever been to. But I was going to say I might have, but I really think I probably did enjoy it about as much as I've ever enjoyed a bachelor's party. I mean, I don't want to sound like, you know, we didn't do anything, but we did quote unquote the guy thing, if you will. But I mean, we just hung out, had a few beers, had a little alcohol if that's what somebody wanted, had other things to drink if somebody didn't want alcohol. But it was Daniel had a good idea when he came up with his bachelor's party of, you know, hey, just I think it's the first time I've ever been to a bachelor party in all my years that the intent wasn't to get wasted and watch naked women bounce around, you know. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to either one. I don't want to sound like a prude, but I mean, I'm just saying it was different. We had good friends. We had good food. Tab made desserts, and then we grilled some fillets and had what we call lake potatoes, since we haven't been able to go to the lake very much this year, meaning 0 times, never open. So that sucked. But yeah, poor RV sitting there wondering what the hell's going on, you know. But that's all right. We'll get it rocking and rolling again next year. But yeah, so we had the lake potatoes and just hung out, man, from about 2 o'clock till um, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and by the time everybody left, and had people get in early, left earlier, and some stayed longer, and just had a good time, man. It was a real good time. So thought I'd let y'all know, give you a brief follow up on that. But yeah, we had a good time with the bachelor's party, and I think Daniel enjoyed it. Miami won, so he was happy. That's his team. So and not the Dolphins, but the Hurricanes. Uh, so we got to watch some good football, and yeah. So hope y'all had a great weekend as well. Got a new listener listening to us today. Bobby Mills is listening in. Yes, indeedy. So it's always great to have new listeners, and she actually looking forward to having her as a listener. So she works actually with Tabitha, and Tabitha's got us another Turfs Up Radio listener. So it's what it's all about. Share it. Share Turfs Up Radio with your friends. Without you guys, I don't have a show. So I need to know you're out there listening. Need to know you're out there listening, Bobby. I appreciate you listening to us as well. And they're both into a very interesting career and what they do. I mean, as far as I'm not going to slaughter it and tell you what they do. It's not a secret, but they just make sure the care plans are in place and it's getting invoiced properly, and the company makes a profit. That's the bottom line of what they do. And because of that, that's where I'm going today with my show, or part of my show is going to be on that, is talking about uh, getting back to the basics, if you will, a bit. So that's where we're going to go with my show a little bit today. We're going to talk a little bit about snow and ice management today, and as always, as you guys shoot text in, we'll get into that as well. So I do want to give Aaron Walls a big shout out. Great show this morning. Eric was on, Daniel was on, Jennifer didn't make it. She was a little bit under the weather, Eric was saying, so hope she gets to feeling better. And then immediately following me today, we have Darren Gruner, King Darren, and he's got a special guest coming up on his show today. And be sure to stay tuned in to that. He'll be on at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That would be 10 a.m. slow time, Aaron Walls, and all of our listeners in Central Time Zone. But yeah, Darren's got a really good show planned for you guys. So be sure to tune in. He's going to, gentlemen, or I say gentlemen, I'm not sure if he's got a lady or a gentleman coming on with him, but he wouldn't tell me who it was. So but hey, that's it. That's it. I know if Darren's going to have them on, it's going to be a great show, and they're going to focus in on how as contractors we spend a whole lot of our time, practicing our craft through the services we perform. But as when things slow down, it's time to shift gears and practice mentally for what we do. Getting more into the finance side and the legal strategy and political outlooks. And I'm sure he's not going to turn it into a political show, but that certainly does have a bearing on how each and every one of us run our business. So on what that outlook is and how that affects the buying habits of consumers. So be sure to stay tuned. Like I said, he'll be on as always right after me at 11. In the meantime, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with more Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Don't you go anywhere. Golly, can y'all believe it? Welcome back. Welcome back to Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio. It's hard to believe, but the expo will be here, the largest of its type all over the country. I mean, that's just a reality of it. It's a huge show. Anybody is there with their products and or services, and hopefully you guys can make it. But if for some reason you can't, I understand that too. Know that your whole team here at Turfs Up Radio is going to be there live. And if you can't make it, we're going to hopefully make you feel like you are there. I mean, it's kind of like Christmas, I mean, for contractors is what it amounts to. I mean, just anything you can imagine is there from an equipment standpoint, uh, software standpoint. Just you just need to be there. And if you can't get there, be sure to tune in Turfs Up Radio. Leave it on. We'll be having a ton of live interviews, and as well as just talking to people. As we're walking around. So, anyways, that's what's going on with that. So let's see. On now. Should be on now. We good? Are we on, y'all? Would somebody give me a sound check? Make sure we're good. See what we're doing here. So Tabitha was asking me if we're on. So I don't know if it's on their end on the app or if we good. Yeah. So yes indeedy. Yes indeedy. Mike Murphy. Yeah. So good deal. So yeah, everything should be good, Tabitha. So we are loud and clear according to our soundboard and guys here in the office. So Mike, appreciate you texting us. Absolutely do appreciate you texting us. Mike said he's going to be tuning in. So there we go. She got Tab said she had a replay. All right. Well, hey, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. You should have it squared away by now. So, Mike, we'll be glad to have you tuning in. Speaking of tuning in, I want to give you guys a new phone number that you can text me in. Text any of the show hosts if you'd like to use it. And I will give it out slow to you guys. Thanks, Corey. I appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate that. Wanted to give you guys a new text line, phone line, and you can see it right on the Turfs Up Radio website. But it's 856 446 8873. That's 856 446 8873. And that is our new hotline for Turfs Up Radio. So you guys put that in your phone, and if you want to reach out to me during my show, you can do it there. There's somebody saying testing out the new text line. So whoever that was, I got you. I got you. So, so there we go. There we go. So appreciate it. Corey, yes, indeedy. There you go, buddy. You guys have got it. Let me give you that number one more time. 856 446 8873. That is our new bat phone. Bat phone, or the turf phone, actually. So there you go. Looks like you guys got it. I appreciate y'all shooting me some test emails on it. And as always, man, just keep them rolling in, and sooner you get that number in your phone and saved, if you want to reach out to any show host, that's going to be the way gateway to get it done. So that's how easy it is, man. We try to keep everybody's life easy around here, and keep it and keep it going. You guys are so funny on your text. So oh my goodness. So here we go. So wanted to talk a little bit about today. My story of the day is something I saw on social media, actually. And that's what prompted me to talk about what I'm going to talk about. And it's kind of funny that Darren has got a special guest coming on, and they're going to take a deep dive into, some things as well after my show. But I saw something on social media, and, a lot of times we speak negatively, if you will, about social media, but it can be a great source of information as well. And this was pretty good content, and it was just simply a person that posted something up that said, And I don't know that these percentages are right, but I think it's good info. It said success is 10% talent and 90% not giving up when things get tough. Success is 10% talent and 90% not giving up when things get tough. And let me say this. I am going to say this. I really don't know if that percentage is right. But what I do know is the point behind it is valid. That we've all got to be willing to take the tough opportunities that we experience in our businesses, and we all have them, whether you're a one truck operation or a multi crew company, it doesn't matter. You know, you can sit out there and, you know, some of these influencers get on there and talk about how great everything is. And my God, if you do it this way and you use this equipment, your life's going to be so much greater. And, you know, well, let me say this. In my 46 years of business experience, some of that is valid, but a lot of it is a little bit, you know what I'm saying, you know. But my whole point is the point of what that person put up of saying, hey, you know, it's less talent, but the main that required than it is the willingness to not give up. And that is the opportunity I think that we all need to take. And when you look at something, and I actually did a seminar on this a few years ago, and it was titled very basically, whatever successful business owner needs to know. And it's such a simple answer. It's such a simple answer that this all got it going. Good morning, Seth. I appreciate you texting in, my friend. Let me know you're out there with us. But really, I think what we overlook sometimes is we got to get back to the basics. We got to get back to the basics of running our business. And the basics, to me, in my opinion, is simply this. You got to be willing to make some changes. And that's what I want to put out there today on my show here on Turf's Up Radio today, is simply that, is to challenge you and ask yourself, when's the last time you physically made some changes within your business? It could relate to anything: administration, production, software. I mean, just ask yourself, when's the last time you made a change? Now, a lot of times we all sit back and we say, oh, yeah, man, change is good. And, you know, if you get complacent, your business is not going to do well. And we all buy into the concept of change is good. But I also think the concept that we buy into a lot of times as business owners is, but you go first. You make the change first, and I'll see how it works out for you before I decide to do it. And I honestly believe that that has a big portion and plays very big into why some companies are successful, some companies aren't, and a lot of companies just struggle to get by. So let's look at how we get back to the basics. Now that could be a 6-hour presentation, literally. I mean, this was a 4-hour seminar that I talked about, and it could have been a 2-day seminar. I mean, it could, and we're going to talk about it for 30 minutes here on Turf's Up Radio. But the main focus that I want to drive home today with it is we all got to be willing to change. Sometimes we look so hard for the answer within our businesses that we can't get the answer because we're trying to make it too complex. And that doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in the landscape industry. It doesn't mean if you're in the healthcare industry. It doesn't matter, what business you're in, what industry you're in. We all got to understand that the most important thing that we will always do within our business, and that is to never lose focus of the reason that we got in business. And if we do lose that focus a little bit, and I've done that myself, so I'll throw myself under the bus first. Are you willing to make the change, or are you going to wait for somebody else and say, man, that is a great idea, but you try it and I'll see how it goes and then I'll try it. But what you got to ask yourself is, and that is an excellent point. I don't see your all's names coming in on this new text thing is my problem. I just see phone numbers coming in, but you're exactly right. But what I want you guys to think about is, and to ask yourself, why did you start your business? I mean, we got a diverse group of business owners on here, from hydraulic companies to dog kenneling to irrigation and everything in the lawn and landscape business industry. But why did you start your business? If you tell me you started your business because you like to mow lawns, that is the wrong answer. Or you like to do Christmas lights, or you like to do landscape lighting. No, that is not why you started your business. And if it is, that's a restriction holding you back. You started your business to make a profit. That's why you should have started your business, is you wanted to do something different for yourself. That's why you started your business, or should have been why you started your business. Mike brings up a really good point. He said a perfect example of that is service agreements. I've been trying to convince a friend of mine to utilize them. He's scared to death of losing his yards. He's spring rich, summer poor, fall rich, winter poor, and has been that way for 15 years, Mike. Appreciate that input, Mike, because you know what? That is exactly right. It's that cyclical event that a customer and a business sees because they do not have service agreements implemented properly within their company. And they want to argue, meaning they, sometimes it's on the consumer's end, but let's look at the business end now. We give ourselves a million reasons why we can't implement it. Now, we're not going to talk about that today because I wanted to stay on this getting back to the basics theme, but I do want your all's input like that from Mike, on what those examples look like. And that is a classic example of what getting back to the basics means. And remember the purpose. We got a talk that we do called the 4 P's to success. And one of those P's is the purpose that we got in business. And the purpose that we got in business was not because we liked seeing landscapes lit up. It's not because we liked killing weeds and making lawns beautiful with fertilizer and herbicides and pre-emergence. It's not because we like to stripe lawns. And I will throw a little caveat into that if we cared as much about the business operation side of our business as we do about our pretty stripes that we put in lawns, we'd all be millionaires in this industry, regardless of the size of our companies. Because the only way that you're going to be truly compensated properly for the services that you're out there rendering for your customers, regardless of what they are, is to understand that the reason you're in business and the reason that you should have started your business is to make a profit. Now, how do we make a profit? Well, then we decide, what do we like to do? Do we want to mow lawns? Do we want to install lights? Do we want to kennel dogs? Do we want to do hydraulics and welding? Do we want to put roofs on houses? Fill in the blank then on what you like to do and what your trade is and what you're good at. But the first thing we got to do is understand the purpose and the reason that we got in business, and that's to create a lifestyle that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise, or we're self-motivated, or we just want to run our own companies, and there's a zillion other things we can say and why we did this. Well, I can't work for anybody else, so I figured I had to work for myself, so I did this because it's easy. Well, man, there ain't nothing easy about running your own business. There's nothing easy about being a business owner. And nothing frustrates me anymore, quite honestly, than people that tell me, well, it must be nice, and they fill in the blank on what it must be nice to. Well, it must be nice to go to the lake, or it must be nice to do this, or it must be nice to do that. Well, it must be nice to get off your ass and do a job that you like doing and get compensated appropriately for what you're doing. That's what's nice. But until you believe that about you and your company, and that your main purpose is to make a profit, you're either not going to succeed, or you'll just struggle and barely get by, when all you got to do is be willing to make some changes and go for it. Make those changes. Now, how do we make a profit? There's a zillion things that we got to do. But first and foremost, before you worry about any of the other things, is truly know and understand your cost per hour of operation for your company based on your overhead, your use rates, and your desired profit margins. Because until you make the change, until you make the change and focus in on why you should be in business, and that's to make a profit, you're going to struggle. That's the reality of it. You got to be the one that's willing to understand that, hey, the most important thing I'm ever going to understand is that I need to know what it costs me to operate. And I need to have consistent methods on bidding. And the only way that that's going to happen is for you to understand your cost. And last but not least, on making a profit, is to understand the importance of creating perceived value for your service. So for the sake of our show today, 3 things I want you to think about when it comes to making a profit. You got to know your cost, which then allows you to have consistent methods of bidding jobs, regardless of what type of work it is, and understand the importance of creating that perceived value. Now, what's the really neat thing about all 3 of those? What's the really unique thing about all 3 of those? You control all 3 of those things. And when we look at the top 3 reasons that we fell as a business, generally what it falls back to is lack of training, pricing for profit, and customer service and retention. You control all 3 of those as well. So if we can control the amount of training we have and the education that we have, and we understand that, hey, or we need to understand that the most important thing we need to understand about our company is to how to make a profit, which then leads us to bidding more consistently. So pricing for profit isn't the killer that it is for a lot of companies and for a lot of small businesses. You don't have to believe Wayne Vose on this. Look up the statistics on failure rates. We're not failing because we're stupid. We're failing because we don't know what we don't know. And you got to be willing to make some changes. What if you had a better handle on training and pricing, which in return is know your cost per hour and consistent methods for bidding? What if you had a better handle on those two things? Then our customer loyalty would be better. And trust me, I can speak from experience from this, so I'm not just throwing darts at this. Your customer loyalty will be better because if I'm understanding my pricing better and I'm pricing my jobs based on what I know I need to have to get the job completed the first time right and be profitable with it, then I'm not rushing through the work. Because Wayne Vose had that problem for the first 9 years we were in business. We were pricing like other people were pricing, thinking that that pricing was right. Well, it must be right. That's the way most everybody else is doing it. But then all I had to ask myself when I finally had my own epiphany on, yeah, we need to make some change and don't wait for somebody else to do it. Let me do it. I'm going to go. It's my turn to make a change. And when we made that change and we started doing less work at a better price, we were creating better perceived value. And because we didn't have the work under bid, we didn't need to rush through the work. And when we didn't have to rush through the work, our customers were getting a better job. And when they were getting a better job, they became more loyal. So our customer base transitioned from a cost base group of customers to a value-based group of customers. And that's one of the aspects of getting back to the basics. How do we transition from a cost-based, predominantly driven database of customers to a value-based database of customers who don't want to get ripped off and robbed and just pay more just to pay more, but they will pay more to get more. And getting more doesn't need to be zeroed in on one particular item. It's first and foremost buying initially on perceived value. Then they're remaining loyal to your business because you're able to follow through with consistently good work. Not perfect work, because none of us are perfect, but excellent work. And that's where one of the other changes that I think a lot of companies need to make, small and large, is the do not expect perfection out of yourself and or your crews, whether it's one truck or 100 trucks or 1,000 trucks. But what you can expect is excellence. And that's another one of the basic changes that each and every business owner needs to understand, regardless of the size of their company. And Fred brings up a good point here. He said he's convinced that 50% of today's owners were bad employees. I can honestly go along with that, Fred. Because when you ask a lot of people how or why they got into this business, a lot of them start off with, I just can't work with people. I can't, I got to work by myself, or I got to do this, I got to do that. It's all these self centered, egotistical issues that are affecting their ability to work with a team environment, whether that team is an owner operator in them or a multi crew company. It's an easy industry. Service industry in general, regardless of what it is you're doing, is an easy industry. Hell, when Wayne's Lawn Service first started, and I've still got some of the invoices around, we were Wayne's Lawn Service and Glass Care. We cleaned sliding glass windows and doors for people in a retirement community. Those two things couldn't be more far apart. But why were we doing that? Well, we were hungry, trying to sell some work. But guess what we didn't have? We didn't have the focus of what we were really in business for. I thought we were in business just to make some income, hopefully make some profit dollars, and grow a business. Which doesn't sound too, I can't think of a good word for it, but it doesn't sound like it's too off target. But the reality of it is, it was way off target. Because the basic, absolute, fundamental aim of any company should be to make a profit. And profit is not a dirty word. And in order to make a profit, it starts with understanding cost per hour of operation, consistent bidding methods, and creating perceived value. But until you put that first in your company and you're willing to make that change, it goes back to people don't change until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. I want you guys to stop throwing yourself under the bus with that Walmart mentality, I call it. And there's nothing wrong with trying to emulate a company that's making good money. But what you got to do first with your company is understand where you're at. Where are you at within your business? Because the same business model that works for Walmart is probably not going to work for a company that its main goal is to make, let's just say, $500,000 a year. I'm not picking out a little number, big number. I'm just throwing a number out there. Or $200,000 a year, or $10 million a year. All of those require different business models. But the basic fundamental model that they all have to have in place is what? What's the one thing that any business needs to know? That's exactly right. It's 100% right. Now, another show and another time, and obviously within the profit circle, we can certainly get in deeper than we can in 45 minutes here today on Turfs Up Radio. And Aaron brings up a point that I want to talk about. And he sends you these little quick things and let you figure it out, I guess. But he sent me something says make a profit, show a profit. The question is, what do you do with the profit? Make a profit, show a profit. What do you do with the profit? Stop taking the market backwards. Stop taking your business backwards. Let this year be different. You know, we've made it to October. Maybe you've had a great year, but that doesn't mean that next year can't be better. And maybe you've had a year that hadn't been so great and you're like, man, I don't know if I'm going to do this another year. Or maybe you're in the middle of those two scenarios and you're like, man, we're making it, but man, I just feel like we could do something a little different and better. Regardless of where you're at, don't quit. But simply ask yourself, when's the last time I made a change? And am I really focused in on the number one reason that I'm in business, and that's to make a profit? Because if that's not the number one priority in your business, and no, you're not going to make a profit on 100% of your jobs 100% of the time, I'll call you out on that. I'll say it's bullshit. It's a big BS system. You know, if that's the case, you're not doing enough work because, again, none of us are perfect. And even though we know cost per hour of operation, and you got a great handle on that, like I know you do, there's things that happen within that job that can affect the profit dollars of the job. And you guys know that. But getting back to the basic fundamental aim, it starts with knowing your cost. Consistent methods for bidding is what that's going to create. And know that cost per hour of operation is not the same for each phase of your company. And what I mean by that is landscaping versus mowing maintenance versus fert and weed versus lighting versus holiday lighting. Fill in the blank on what you do. They all have different break-even points. And they all need to be calculated to different break-even points. Because if you're trying to run your company one price fits all, you're probably going to have some problems. You're probably going to have some issues because different pricing for different services, even within the same market, you've got to make allocation for those differences because different services are going to come with different perceived value or different perception. And that's where my buddy Hegibus educated me a few years ago. And I shared this with somebody the other day talking about it seriously. And I'm as serious as a heart attack talking about this. You've got to remain focused. Let me see what you guys got your sentiment here. I'd say one price fits all methods is what's screwing up the spraying and landscape maintenance. Local guys in my market are charging $45 an hour for landscaping services. Well, that's because they're still reading on a lot of these social media things that, you know, hey, dollar a minute. Man, it's been $1 a minute. We ain't getting into all that again, but right today. But I mean, it's been $1 a minute for way too long. Yeah, Darren, yeah, because I'm open minded enough to know I can learn from anybody. You know, that's the thing. And that took me a long time to do too, is to know that just because I didn't necessarily agree with everything somebody did or does. And I think that's a valid point with what I want you guys to understand too is, you don't have to agree with everything somebody does. You're going to hear a lot of fodder, social media wise and otherwise, but you owe it to yourself to listen to what people have to say. And that's why I always say I learn a lot from you guys here on Turfs Up Radio. I learn just as much from you guys that I do sitting in a course somewhere, Absolutely. Mike, appreciate your text. Mike said, sometimes I offend them when I give them Turfs Up Radio links. And see, that's the thing. That's just people being closed minded. It's kind of like they don't want to get back to the basics of why they're in business. But what you've got to do, and the only way you know for sure, is when you come up with a pricing methodology for your company, you've got to know what's enough and what's not enough. A solid pricing methodology that you put in place is not designed for you to be the highest contractor in your market. Now, it may position you to be more than what you've been charging. But I will also say this. When I finally sat down and calculated my cost per hour of operation with our know why you charge what you charge spreadsheets, it also helped me understand that I was charging too much for jobs on some of them that I could have taken for less and still made the margin that I wanted. So that's the other side of understanding why you charge what you charge. The bottom line is simply this. You've got to utilize a cost recovery system, and most people don't. They got some halfway system that they've implemented, or they've invested into some nice software that does CRM, it does bidding to a certain extent. It tracks your proposals that you've sent out. It does all these nice administrative things for you. But the major input of what do you want to charge per hour, it's asking you for an input that it doesn't calculate. And I understand it doesn't calculate it because the information's not put in. So you've got to be the one that understands direct, indirect, and additional overhead cost for the job. And if you don't have a good handle on that and the difference between your direct cost or indirect cost or additional overhead and your desired profit margin, you don't have a chance at really understanding the break-even point. I had a contractor the other day trying to tell me that, man, I've made $3,000 on this job because I had this and mulch and this and, my help and this and, was going over all their material, but no additional overhead consideration at all. No consideration for their own labor for the last 3 days. And again, I'm not making fun. I'm just pointing out the fact that a person needs to understand, and they got to get back to the basics if you really want to understand how to position yourself to be more successful, more profitable. Now, a lot of times, and I'll say this, and I know we're running out of time. I need to wrap up. I know a lot of times it's easier to just keep doing things the way you've been doing them than it is to make a change, because we don't want to get into the fear factor of I'll lose all my customers. It's like, Damn, oh, I can't change. Nobody else is going to change. So then, I'm going to lose all my customers. No, you're not. You're going to find out the same thing that Wayne found out. And that was some of our customers were okay. Some of our customers weren't okay. Those are the ones we needed to fix. And the ones that we needed to fix, the largest percentage of them, when we called and told them that, hey, we need to have a price increase, what do you think most of them said? And I swear on my life this is true. Most of them simply said, okay. That's when you start kicking yourself in the butt and saying, man, how long was I leaving that out there on the table? And you might say to yourself, well, you know what? You might be like old Wayne here. You might be like old Wayne here, sitting here, you know, not wanting to know, and then one day you just finally get the guts that says, hey, I need to focus more on why I'm charging what I'm charging and not focus in on more business, more accounts, and my stripes I'm putting in yards. Yeah, it's all important, but let's focus in on the most important aspect of our business, and that is that we're in business to make a profit. And once we focused in on that, that allowed us to take the opportunity to change our database around. We knew who our customer had to be, and we were able to direct our marketing and our advertising in a more targeted approach and not a shotgun approach. And and we're not getting into marketing, obviously, today. We got less than 2 minutes. But once you sit down and you figure out your cost, what do you do next? Number one, you trust the results that you see based on your overhead, your use rate, your desired profit margins, and where your break even point is. You inform your clients that those changes need to be made. And last but not least, guess what we do? We implement the answer consistently in our bidding system. And that, my friends, is how you change your business. But going back to the very beginning, you got to be the one that makes the change. And until you make the change, nothing changes. Stay tuned right here for King Darren and his special guest as they talk about it's not only what you do in the season, but how do we fine tune our business after the season. Appreciate y'all's time. Appreciate all your input. Stay tuned to Turfs Up Radio all day long. And remember, profit is not a dirty word. We'll see you next time.